iPads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremont.
Oh, yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day of not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now, the two guys that took 2 years to fix their audio problems.
Technically, it's one guy, and he took 2 years, and that would be me. I am your host, Chris Phoenix, and this is BGFG, the show by a generation for a generation. And what we do on this show, unfortunately, Fremo Z is not here today. He's got a lot of things cooking, and it's going to be really cool down south. So, with that said, we have a lot of news today. A lot of tech stuff came out, a lot of questions, a lot of statements, a lot of different things. So we're going to try to get them as fast as we can, especially the news. So let's get into the news first, because I definitely want to get into the other side. Just going to be good stuff.
BGFG News. You heard it here third.
So the first thing that's up this week, and if you're watching the video, you'll see the picture of Microsoft is involved in everything. And they are very close to becoming to our Facebook hatred, I guess you could say. So, look, Microsoft has been involved in a lot of different things, and they've done a lot of different things. And they're a pain in the ass. But before any of that, you have to know how kind of the industry itself works. So, basically, the beginning of the industry, so let's backtrack a little bit. The FCC. There's different parts of the government that are involved in different things, as you'll see throughout the show. And some of them work out great, and some of them do not. The FCC, when I worked in the cable industry, the cable industry came out with this thing called cable cards. They were brilliant. They were about the size of a PCIMA slot, which is the slots that you might remember on older computers, small, flat, almost like a fat credit card. Those were one of the things that they were able to do with those is what they call cable cards. And the cable card, which was brilliant, I think there's only one TV. There was a Samsung GX series that you could slide it into the back of it, and you could subscribe to your cable service. And instead of going to your box, it would basically be this cable card instead of a box. It would be plugged into the back of your television, and it worked great. And back in the day, by law, they had to offer cable cards. So there was a lot of people that wanted to use cable cards, whether it was on their computer or a high-end gaming PC or whatever they built it into. We had to carry them on our trucks, but we were never allowed to offer them. This was not an option. This was something that had to be asked for, or you had to have a specific service order to go do. We carried them on our trucks. A lot of guys didn't even know what they were. I was hoping I would get somebody, and I did get somebody one time that wanted one, which was very cool. Plugged it into the back of the TV, called the cable company, got it connected, and the thing worked flawlessly. Now, that was in, that was probably in the early 2000s, maybe even the late, it had to be the early 2000s. So by 2015, they kind of moved that. In 2015, they pulled that law, so they didn't have to have it. Now, you have to understand that the cable card was a brilliant idea. When you buy a cable box, when you had those big Motorola cable boxes and such, those were ordered from Motorola, and you could buy them on your own, but they were ordered from Motorola, and they had a lot of features. They had internet connectivity. They had, oh my gosh, they had just about everything. DVRs built in even before DVRs were popular. They had multiple hard drives in them. They had multiple outputs. So you could do anything you want. When the cable companies bought them, they stripped them down. They ordered them with absolutely zero in it. Nothing worked on the back of that cable box except for the cable card. What people don't know is that gigantic box had a little tiny cable card in it, and that's basically how it worked. Since then, companies like TiVo have used them. The Moxie box used them. There was a lot of different companies that used them, and it was brilliant. I think they should still have it. You could have had, if it really took off, you could have had those shoved into an Xbox, into a PlayStation, into just about anything, and it would get your cable signal, which was brilliant. But again, in the FCC's pressure and infinite wisdom, they kind of said, no, you don't need to carry them anymore. So the cable companies were like, shit, yeah, we ain't doing that shit no more. What they didn't realize is that once the cable companies talked the FCC into it and got them to do that, now cable cards aren't mandated in any way, shape, or form. Other companies like HD Home Run, the Happenaw DVR stuff that you can build into your computer. A lot of people just use computers, and that's their main unit for entertainment, TV or otherwise. And the biggest one is TiVo. And we've gone on their show numerous times to say how good TiVo is. It's a brilliant algorithm for thumbs up, thumbs down. You will definitely find shows. It was a brilliant unit from then, and now it's still a really good unit instead of getting a cable box. But now they don't even have to have, well, they can still have cable cards, but cable companies aren't going to allow them anymore. And I think that's a really shitty deal. Now, without the cable card, what's the point of the TiVo? You'd have to go in and out, kind of like an old VCR type thing. That's not a good idea either. And again, I think this was a nail in the coffin for TiVo, and I am really sad about that because TiVo was a hell of a brand, and they were a good product. I had several of them for a long time, and they were killer. And they're just not going to be available anymore. There's a lot of other options out there for video services and such, and I agree. There's a lot of video service. You really don't need it. And I think between this and then you also the COVID pandemic and everybody being locked down, I think that really just put the nail in the coffin for not just cable card and TiVo, but I think for the cable companies as well. You just simply don't need them except for internet access at this point. There's no other reason to have them. You can get all your information from an Apple TV or from a Fire Stick, or TVs now have Apple TV built in, and there's so many ways to get your digital products and find stuff that you need. Unless Microsoft gets their hands on it. If Microsoft gets their hands on it, you can almost guarantee that they're going to break that shit down. Now, Microsoft, yes, they're kind of everywhere, but you have to understand the full scope of things. So we talked in the show before about how Amazon, Google, Facebook, they all got pulled into Congress, and they were all questioned, all in a televised roundtable discussion, kind of like a meeting about many different things. But the one thing that even we noticed here on the show was that Microsoft wasn't even involved. After I did some digging, it turns out that, well, Microsoft was involved because they were the ones that dimed out everybody else. And people don't understand the true problem that is existing with Microsoft, in my opinion. So the only products that people know of and care about are the Windows operating system and the Xbox. Now, Microsoft's Xbox is on its own. That thing is done champion. Their interface still sucks, but the product itself is great, and they've made a shit ton of money on it. Windows 10 has been a great product. I think Windows 10 is really well done, even though I'm a Mac person. I think it's extremely well done, but they're never coming out with Windows 11. There's just going to be feature updates and security updates here and there. They feel it's a full system, and I don't disagree. I think it's a very good system. But they are notorious for buying companies and burying them, just destroying them. Bizarre Creations, makers of Project Gotham Racing and Blur, very popular. They bought them. Everything's great. Don't worry about nothing. 6 months, company's gone. They bought Danger Hipshot, which was the Sidekick phone from T-Mobile for a while. Extremely popular, so popular that Microsoft bought it. And again, you can't blame Hipshot because, shit, if you're having millions of dollars thrown at you, well, why wouldn't I take it? Again, they promised this is going to be great. We love the idea of it. They have a server similar to BlackBerry. Yep. Yep. And then suddenly the server crashed and they couldn't use it anymore. And you can't really use the phones anymore. But the server, we're just going to hold on to that and that technology. And then they changed it into the KIN. Look that shit up. KIN for Microsoft. It failed unbelievably miserably. I want to say that they might have sold 60,000 units. I'm probably wrong, but it's really a low number altogether. It was another failure, but they don't care. They already got the technology that they wanted and they purchased. They do this all the time. So in the story that I posted, you have to start looking at why Microsoft is so involved in all this shit. Like, they're really involved. When you started hearing the president talk about TikTok and being bought, he actually said, well, Microsoft could buy it. We'll take a little kickback, but Microsoft will buy it. Yes, he did say that. Microsoft could buy it. What the hell does Microsoft want to do with TikTok? They've already crushed another business. If you don't believe me, Nokia. The brick of phones. You couldn't break them. They were phenomenal phones. They bought them. And where are they now? Nowhere. They're nowhere because they don't care anymore. Microsoft has had a track record of having military contracts, working with the government, doing what they were told to do. And in turn, it is now starting to pay off. They just got the Jedi contract we talked about last week. They're doing okay. Well, they're the ones that dimed out the other big companies, big tech conglomerates, to end up showing up there. That's why they weren't there. And now you start seeing this news about how the voting is an issue and how Russia is. Guess who's the one that investigated all this tech-wise? Norton? No. FCC? Nope. This was Microsoft. Microsoft was the one that investigated Russian voting issues. What the hell? This doesn't even make sense. And then to top it all off, you have the CDC is now handling the unemployment and Microsoft is handling voter fraud.
Don't look over here. Nothing to see here. Ooh, look at that.
There's something going on, people. I'm telling you, listeners right now, all the sheeple, pay attention. Pay attention. Microsoft is going to be making huge moves, and it's going to be very scary, and I think it's rather disgusting. They have gotten away with all sorts of things in the background that everybody else is getting in trouble for. Even Facebook. Some of the practices and things that Microsoft does is definitely something that other companies have gotten in trouble with. And I just don't think that's fair. I mean, come on. Why is the CDC involved at all in anywhere, shape, or form with unemployment? That just doesn't make sense. And speaking of the CDC, the White House has said that some information provided by the CDC director would undermine the president's optimistic messages. So in case you're one of those people that bash the numbers all the time, oh, the numbers are wrong, CDC get the wrong numbers. They didn't get the wrong numbers. They didn't at all. They tried, again, this is political. They tried to flip it. They tried to figure out a way, flip it, get it to sound positive. And the funny thing is that everybody that thinks about this, they all have the same feeling. Why is the CDC numbers going through one individual in the White House so that the president can have a more optimistic message? That's not good. That's not good at all. CDC's weekly reports are authored by career scientists to serve to inform doctors and researchers and the public at large as to what actually is going on. They don't care about your opinions. These are just facts. That's why they redistributed the numbers. And when this Michael Caputo, he's a former Trump campaign official with no medical or science background. He's now the Health and Human Services spokeshole. And he's the one that's making these calls. So when the numbers come out, he's like, oh, that's not good. We can't tell everybody that all these numbers are bad. That doesn't make any sense. Wait a minute. I got an idea. How about we switch them a little bit? We don't tell. So yes, there was X amount of definite COVID deaths. And then there was another amount with COVID-related deaths of people that had flu or diseases. And everyone's like, well, if these people had underlying conditions. Right, but they were living with underlying conditions. and then they got COVID and they died. You can't escape those numbers. That's just the way it is. And again, we at BGFG deal in facts and numbers. And that's basically what it is. So this spokeshole is changing things to make it a more optimistic message. Why not let the CDC do something like, I don't know, their job? That's what they're supposed to do. Instead of having them watch unemployment, you could actually have them speak to the public and let them know what's going on. He's also tried to hold reports about treatments because they might make the president look bad. Like I can't even say it. Hydrochloroquine? Oh, I can never say it. My wife takes it, and I can't even say it. And she takes it for a legitimate reason, yet she can't get it easily right now because every moron is trying to take it thinking that it works. Again, I don't give a shit who suggested it. It simply doesn't work. It's possible that it could work with a bunch of other additives, I guess, for lack of a better term, to them, but it still doesn't really work. And then the spokeshole turns around and says, and I quote, "Nothing to go out unless I read and agree with the findings, and I tweak it to ensure it is fair and balanced and complete." The hell is wrong with people? This is what's going on, and you need to open your eyes. Even before November, I'm not telling you how to vote or how to do anything. I'm just saying that certain people, I don't want my mailman delivering my milk. Not that I get milk delivered, but I don't want that to happen. I don't want the dairy guy or the milkman that comes and delivers milk. I don't want him delivering my mail. People have a specific job, and that's what they're supposed to do. This guy's got no scientific background, no nothing. He was just a helper. And now he's in charge of everything. It's ridiculous. Let's get into the other half of our show because it's usually the better half anyway. So music this week. Let's get away from all the negative because I hate negative. But it's news and we got to talk about it. In the music this week is a person, I guess you could say. You could probably put it into J-pop, K-pop, A-pop, called Poppy. The reason why I picked this song is yes, it's a pretty cool beat, but why I picked it was because it's just really cool. It's this girl is an artist. So what I admire, and if you look at the links in the show notes, not only do I have the link to the song with the lyrics, but I also have another link about her backstory because it is truly an artist. And I think people, when they look at Lady Gaga, who's a pure artist, Madonna was a pure artist. Lenny Kravitz is another one that's kind of a pure artist. There's all these people that are pure artists. They don't care about what you think. They don't care about what you do. They're making their art. This is art to them, whether you like it or not. There's not a lot of things that she does or that she did or whatever else that I agree with. I don't. But I love the fact that she owns it. She's purely internet driven. This is where she got her fame. This is where she does her thing. And if you watch them, they're art pieces. I truly feel that there's one with her just eating cotton candy. It's an art piece. The way the background is, it's just, I love this. So this is Poppy. I disagree. 3-man rock band behind her. Yeah, I don't have anything really bad to say because I really kind of like it. So enjoy, and when you get a chance, watch the video and the backstory on the video. And we'll see you on the other side for Xbox news. poppy. Again, I like it. When you listen, let me warn you ahead of time. When you listen to it, it's totally different than when you watch it. Because when you watch it, you're gonna go, "What the fuck am I watching? This is some K-pop, some J-pop. This is some bullshit." The music's good. I just like the idea of she's an artist. She understands that she's an artist, and she doesn't waver from that. And I think that's nicely done. I think we're missing that a lot, especially the music world. You know, there's a lot of people that took a lot of chances for a long time. Madonna, David Bowie, Lenny Kravitz. I mean, those are off the top of my head. There's probably hundreds of other ones that took chances in their music. I'm not going to say Britney Spears or anything like that, but there was a lot. Anyway, second half of the show, we got a lot of stuff to cover. There was a lot of tech news, and hopefully I can get to it all because I am on a kind of a time constraint. So let's get into Stick Style with the worst intro ever.
Gaming.
All right, let's just get into it. The new Xbox is here. So the announcements, good luck finding them all. There's announcements for the PlayStation, there's announcements for the Xbox, and there's announcements for the 3080. And everything sucks. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It all sucked. When my wife and I went to go purchase, because we saw it and we were just like, we need that. Very little fanfare. The PlayStation 4 500 million edition. When they sold 500 million of them, they came out with 50,000 of these blue, translucent, and copper PlayStations. Absolutely stunning. Look it up. I would take a picture right now and show you, but it's back there. Just a phenomenal piece. And we had 4 windows open on 2 different computers with multiple accounts. And I'm not saying I was trying to do something illegal. I'm saying she was on her account. I was on my account. We had 4 windows open, 4 different companies or retail people, and we tried to buy it at launch. We woke up, set our alarms, had a cup of coffee, and waited till 12:01. And every one of them was gone instantaneously. And this was the first time I really saw that happen. It was bots. When we finally got a hold of somebody that was the next town over that had 2 of them, we were like, man, how'd you get it? And he was charging way too much. So once he finally broke down and realized he's only going to make it like $100 on each one, immediately we were like, hey, how'd you do it? He's like, I got a bot. Bot? It's like, damn, they're using bots now for this shit? What the hell? This was another good example of it. Let's start off with, before we get into the specs of some of the stuff, the PlayStation first and foremost. That was announced, and then they were supposed to have it in retails. I work in retail. It wasn't there. At least it wasn't announced that much. Like, we've heard about the Xbox, and we were shushed and NDA'd or whatever you want to call it about the Xbox launch and price and all that stuff. PlayStation, I didn't hear jack squat about it. I didn't. Maybe I was not listening hard enough, but I didn't hear jack squat about the release. PlayStation, again, we already talked about the stats. We already talked about the stats on the Xbox. PlayStation, for the lack, again, it's almost the same. The only difference between the Xbox and the PlayStation really internally is their hard drives. PlayStation has this weird 860 something gigabyte drive that's stupid fast. I've talked to several representatives and they've all said the same thing. They're like, it's mind blowing how fast it is, but it's unique to them, where Microsoft did something a little bit different with a standard sized drive or standard drive. The prices are relatively the same. So the Xbox Series S, which is the small one that you see on the screen now, we'll get to that in a minute. The Xbox Series S is $300. It has no disk drive in it. It's got 10 gigs of RAM. It's still got a custom AMD Radeon chip in it for graphics. It does 1440 at 4K, but it upscales it. It's got a 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD drive in it, and it's got a proprietary external 1 terabyte drive. Very cool. That should be enough. Again, it's a digital. It's no disk on it. Okay. The Xbox Series X. The Series X is $500. It does have a Blu-ray drive. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a Navi 12 GPU, which is slightly faster, but still an AMD processor or AMD chip. And it's got a 1 terabyte hard drive in it. Let's talk about the way it looks. I think the Series X is very nice. The reason why is because the shape of it. It's tall, it's cylinder. If you have a high-speed modem from your cable company or gigabit from your cable company, the modem is very tall. It's not laying down flat like a router anymore. It's tall. The Xbox Series X is very much like that. And I think they missed something here in Microsoft because all you had to do is take that tall thing, cut it in half to eliminate the disk drive, and you have a nice little cube that you could have done anything. The thing I like about the Xbox is that whether you want to put stickers on it or you actually want to come out with a custom one, it's got the right size for it. It's a perfect size. But, of course, Microsoft, being the douche canoes that they are, like we talked about earlier, decided that the Series S needs to be split vertically. It is an ugly shit. It looks like a speaker. Now, when we get into aesthetics and ugliness, make no mistake, the PlayStation 5 is probably the ugliest thing on the planet right now, in my opinion. There is no... my son, 2 of my sons want them for Christmas, so they'll be getting them. I'm not getting one until I can see one that's a limited edition or a different color or something like that. I do like the PlayStation controller. It is bigger. I have big hands, so I really like the idea that I can grab something. I thought that the PlayStation DualShock, while nice, is too small for my hands. So having a bigger controller, I think is great. The way the haptic feedback works on the controller is phenomenal. Xbox didn't go that far. But again, I just read something on Xbox that their custom controller part of their website is going to be down for a while. And if you know Microsoft well enough, that shit ain't coming back. God only knows why, because everybody loved them. You can go get a custom one made, all the different colors you wanted and shit. But apparently, if you like it, Microsoft's not going to do it. Microsoft said that the pre-orders were going to start on the 22nd, which I didn't want to get into that. But you should be able to find them at Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop. They're going to be very limited. PlayStation 5 as well. And this is not from my own retail facility. This is from another place that the wife and I go to get collectibles and stuff like that. It's going to be very limited everywhere. They're going to be extremely limited. So try to get them as you can. Both companies have said numerous times, though, that they'll have plenty for Christmas. And I don't know necessarily whether I believe that or not. I just don't know. They're if you're watching on the show, you'll see that again, Microsoft, you're cut your nose off to spite your face. You had a perfect design with the Xbox X. All you have to do is cut it in half, and you have a little cube, which would be perfectly aesthetically pleasing to everybody. This tall version of the S is stupid. And PlayStation, I don't even want to get into how ugly your shit is. I'm sure it's ballsy fast. I will eventually own one. But you missed a couple of things. That the top and the bottom, you should have been able to slide those off like the old 360 and put a new faceplate on there. Unlimited customization. People love that shit. But with the shape it is, you can't even tell if you can get a good sticker cover for it or a wrap for it because it's an obscenely color. And then the launch titles. I was originally going to talk about all the launch titles that are coming for both systems. But you know what? I'm not gonna do it because the launch titles really, I think, are okay. They're mediocre. There's nothing to write home about. Even Halo for the Xbox, which you considered just a gimme, that was going to be the one. Even that is not going to be coming out with the Xbox when it launches in November. It's just not. I'm hoping that Microsoft sees the opportunity to make a custom Xbox Series X for the launch of the new Halo. And from, again, what I've heard, it's going to be the last Halo. They're going to build off of that. So I think Microsoft is really changing their entire landscape of everything. But what I did want to mention was the launch titles that came out with the original Xbox. Now, when the original Xbox came out, it was a game changer. Anybody that was there and bought it that time will tell you it was an absolute game changer. It was a bigger unit than everything else. It was a better unit than everything else, and the games alone were unbelievable. So the launch titles for the Xbox this time around are things like Dirt 5, Horizon 4, which again, you're not reinventing the wheel here. You're just you're basically upscaling this shit. Destiny Beyond Light expansion, good. I hope it does 60 frames for a second. That'd be great, because none of them else do. But again, it's already Destiny 2. It's already out. You're just doing something else. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, again, great game. Looking forward to seeing it. But is that a launch title? I don't know if that's a launch title. Launch titles kind of. I mean, they have the Falconeer, which is what the fuck is that game all about? But again, that's something you haven't seen before. Brilliant. Look at the original Xbox releases. Okay, there was Cell Damage, which was the game Cell Damage. You didn't really play a game like Cell Damage before. You know, you had Jet Set Radio, and the cell animation was really going. You see Borderlands 3 with it now. You had Fusion Frenzy. Fusion Frenzy was like a battle game between multiple players, and you can still play it now. It's still out now. It's the original Xbox, and you can still play Fusion Frenzy on, what is it, Game Pass, I think it is. You can play Fusion Frenzy. Dead or Alive 3. Yes, it's the third game. Right, but it was all new graphics, all new everything. You had Madden representing the sports guys. You had NASCAR Heat and NASCAR Thunder. So whichever way you were going with the racing games, you could pick one. And it was out on the Xbox originally. They had fucking PGR, probably one of the greatest racing games. A lot of BGFG listeners consider it one of the best games of all time. You had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on it. And, of course, Halo Combat Evolved. Combat Evolved sold that system. I'm sorry, but it did. That was the main reason why you got in line. This new game, you saw a couple of clips from it, you heard the song, the music, and you were like, this is the shit. I need this. And that's how to launch a game. That is really how to launch a game. We were talking earlier about what's in these games. So what's in these systems? AMD is what's in these systems. AMD processors and AMD GPUs. I run a full rig with AMD. I'm recording on a full AMD rig now. I like AMD. If you're going to be a strict gamer on your PC, again, I tell customers all the time, if you're going to be just gaming on this thing, this is your main priority every night. You'll do a couple of other things, but mostly gaming. Get yourself an Intel processor with a 3080 if you can get one. Again, the 3080 is another good example. Bots hit that thing, and as soon as the bots hit the NVIDIA site, none of them were there. In fact, it got so bad that even on eBay, where scalpers were putting them up for sale, other people made other bots that jacked up those prices to like 60, 70 grand. So they're never going to get their money. But NVIDIA said they're sorry. They didn't realize this was going to happen, and they'll make sure that there's more available. I don't know. I don't know anybody that got one. I don't know one person, not one, that got one. I've seen pictures, but I don't know anybody that got them. Both the new systems have AMD processors and GPUs. And AMD is supposed to be doing another announcement. And again, you're hopeful that the Navi chips come out and it's going to be just as good. They're going to be announcing a new Ryzen chip, which again, Ryzen chips are really, really good. And in a tweet, Lisa Su mentioned that the Radeon RDNA 2 is going to be released. Then, when pressed, they confirmed that October 28th announcement of Big Navi, the new Radeon 6000 series GPUs, will be out. Again, at least it's not a bicycle. They've already done that shit. That was dumb. But I feel, and I love AMD, and I will love their processors for the multi-threading and things I can do with production and things like that, and I'll always try to use one. But if you don't come correct with that 6000 series Radeon card, I mean, I bought a Radeon 7. I have it in the computer right now that I'm using. And you discontinued it in 8 or 9 months for no reason at all. And that was supposed to be your flagship. So if this 6000 series doesn't do as well as a 3080 or outperform a 3080, then it's game over for AMD. And as much as I love them, there's no way they can come back for that. I don't think there's any way they can come back from that. Because the 3080 is killing it. It's killing it. It's so much faster than everything. 3090, not so much. 3090 is more geared toward people like me that are going to do more than just gaming on it. So you don't get that huge gaming improvement from the 3080 to the 3090. But the 3080 is just a beast. And even as an AMD fan, I plan on picking one up if AMD doesn't come correct. That's for shit sure right there. But yeah, there was a lot of game stuff, and all I can say is do your research first. If you see one pop up on a site and you do want one, snag it while you can, because they're going to be very hard to come by this season. Very hard to come by. So many people want one. Let's get into the last segment for what it's worth. So one of my favorite topics, as everybody knows, is Facebook. So here's the thing, is that every day at work, I sit there and I tell people about how bad Facebook and Instagram are, and how much they track of you, and how they've been to court numerous times for their tracking practices, and all they do is go, and then as they're walking out the door, they pay the fine, whatever it is. It could be millions, could be billions, could be thousands. They don't give a shit. They pay it, walk out, and continue doing what they're going to do. And I think it's a lot of times a dog and pony show. Like, somebody bitches about it, Congress calls them in, they lip service them, on the way out, pay the fine. Bob's your uncle. I mean, that's just the way they've been doing shit. But now they let a little bit too much out, and I think it was Instagram's fault this time. Facebook owns Instagram, and Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri said that the company is going to push back on Apple and their iOS 14, because iOS 14 on your Apple iPhone is going to stop tracking. It's literally, when you pull up an app, it's going to tell you for the first time, this app is going to track this. Do you want to allow it? And you can say no. The app will supposedly still work correctly, but it's not going to track you anymore. Think of it more like we've explained here on the show about how Apple Pay works. So when Apple Pay comes out, it has a separate chip in the phone just for your data for your credit card. When you hit tap to pay, in that nanosecond, it takes your information and creates a new number temporarily for you to give to the company you're buying a product from. All you get is that number and my name. That's it. No other information. And this was a big problem. That's why a lot of people didn't accept Apple Pay. This was the problem. Now, with Facebook and Instagram, you're not going to allow them to track anything. This moron turned around and said that Instagram and Facebook will lose 50% of their revenue if you shut off tracking. Now, I want my listeners to educate other people as well, but especially my listeners to understand that Facebook and Instagram are getting 50% of their revenue from tracking you. When you sign the EULA and you sign into that, you agree to allow any and all of your information to be shared with third-party affiliates. They never tell you what the third-party affiliates are. They never tell you what those third-party affiliates are doing. They've already cracked one of them out of Boston that was taking so much information and then just selling on the open market, which caused so much shit. Now they're literally saying that 50% of their revenue is going to be gone because Apple alone doesn't allow tracking of their products. I say, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to be tracked at all. I don't think that's right in any way, shape, or form at all. You shouldn't be tracked. And the fact that they're going to lose 50% of their business is a fucking problem. You should be rethinking about using Facebook and Instagram, especially on your device, because all that shit is being passed along. Why do you think you get robocalls? How do you think the people that are hacking or the people that are doing the cold calls of, this is Microsoft. My name is Betty, and you have a problem with your computer. How do you think they're getting your phone numbers? It's because of shit like this. They don't care. If I told them I want to spend $1 billion to get ads, I want to put ads on your site and I need that information, they don't give a shit. It's $1 billion. They're going to do it every time. And as we talked about earlier, the CDC is being very censored. But again, to discredit the CDC, the White House is now putting out that the CDC reported that dining out raises the risk of contracting COVID more than any other activities, except the POTUS rallies. But it's dining out and taking off my mask increases my risks of COVID. You think? You think it does? How about all the people at these rallies that are not wearing masks and not social distancing? I'm social distancing in the restaurant. I'm with my loved one, eating without my mask, and when I get up, I put my mask back on. Again, I don't care whether you think it's a fake disease or not. Just think about the facts, the science of it. And this is what they want to report. The CDC is not doing this. No matter as dumb as our society can be, you don't need to be told that eating at a public restaurant with no mask on increases your chances of COVID. You have to be a moron if you don't understand that. Moron. Kind of like, similar, but not the same as, if you buy Amazon Basics. So I've bought Amazon Basics before, and they are really like the bottom of the barrel. If that's all you can afford, then that's all you can afford. But be cautious, because they're good products for cheap. But again, they're not the most well built. It launched in 2009. It offers more than 5,000 products on Amazon Basics. But since 2016, there's been about 1,500 products covering more than 70 different lines that have been described as exploding, catching fire, smoking, or melting. Again, not super quality made, not a lot of safety protocols, because again, they're cheap. This costs money to put this stuff in these products. I guarantee you that 90% of the time, it's user error. 90% of the time. But just be cautious when you buy these basic stuff. They're not the greatest thing in the world. So just be cautious. And before we leave tonight, because again, I have another engagement I got to get to. Before we leave tonight, I thought it was funny. I saw a story flash about the Pringles can. I don't know if anybody's heard this yet, but I thought it was comical because I never really thought about it. And that's why I thought it was comical. So Pringles is being pushed hard on changing their can design. Now, we've all had Pringles cans. We've used them for multiple different things. Our hands don't fit in it. You always get somebody that gets their hands stuck in it. They're good chips. But the Pringles can, when you think about it, the Pringles can is in trouble because it can't be recycled easily. You have the plastic top, okay? You have the foil inside to keep everything fresh. Then you have a cardboard exterior. And then outside of that, you have a painted, like, paper cover over the cardboard. So when it comes to dismantling this thing for recycling purposes, it's a nightmare. It's almost impossible. You get 3 different recycling products that are jammed in together with each other, and to separate them, it's damn near impossible. So they're begging for the Pringles company to actually change these out. I think it's going to be even funnier to track this. I'm not going to, but if you're one of the listeners that like to track our stories, and I know there's some of you, just follow this, because there is so many. Pringles don't exactly have a short shelf life, so there is hundreds of thousands and millions of these things out there, out in the world. And yes, it is a problem, and yes, we should be concerned, but it's going to be a while before that problem's fixed. So that's about it for this week, and I hope you enjoyed the show. You can send us email at any time at BGFG show. Actually, that's funny. I don't even remember that. So you can either send us email at bgfgshow@gmail.com, or if you're a gamer, it's sixstyleonline@gmail.com. That's it for this week. 10's down. Show's over.
So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Podcast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.